What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. This is your boy Frankie Bones, and in today's video, going to be hopping back into the Yankees universe for the last time in the first half of the season. We'll break down the Yankees and Cubs series in the Bronx to bring us to the halfway point, quote-unquote, in the season. The Yankees drop this series here, really disappointing after some of the results that we had, but we'll hop into that here throughout the video. We will talk key takeaways. We'll talk what's up, Doc, talking about some guys on the mend coming back from the IL hopefully soon. And finally, we'll wrap up with who's on deck, talk about the schedule coming up over the next 2 weeks. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like, and don't forget to subscribe if you are new, to make sure you don't miss out on any Yankees content for the rest of the season. So, as you always should, we'll start off with Game 1 of this series. This game came on Friday night. The Cubs end up winning this game by a score of 3-0. The first thing to talk about is Carlos Rodon. Looked pretty solid in his debut, I will say. 5 1/3, 4 hits, 2 runs, 2 Ks, 2 walks. Overall, pretty solid. We'll talk a little bit more about him and a breakdown of the start in the key takeaways. But we see a familiar friend. Jameson Taillon ends up pitching really well against our team. Really disappointing to see that. He has one of the highest, if not the highest, ERA in the National League. He ends up going over 7, and the Yankees get 2 hits. I mean, that's just sort of unacceptable, and again, we'll sort of talk about this theme a little bit later as we go on. In the second game, the Yankees end up taking this game by a score of 6-3. Of course, Garrett Cole is on the bump. We naturally take those games, as you should when your ace is on the mound. Goes over 7, 7 1/3, 5 hits, 3 runs, 5 Ks, and pitches well. Obviously puts us in a spot to win. Ends up giving up those last 2 runs on a Mike Sockman home run, another guy that we have seen and obviously grew relatively fond of throughout his time. Giancarlo, 2 big blasts, 1 to left, that honestly I thought the baseball was going to evaporate. The second one, not so much, a banger off of the foul pole in right, but maybe he's starting to heat up. We all know the stats where he plays better in the outfield, so very encouraging to see him, 1, both in the outfield, and 2, continuing to hit. It's not the prettiest. I know we talked about it last video, but got it done in this one. And the last talking point here, Harrison Bader with a big bases loaded 2 RBI double, and just sort of allowing us to continue to expand the lead. And finally, we'll talk about the game here earlier this afternoon. Recording this here Sunday night, the Cubs end up taking this game by a score of 7-4. Domingo Germán, a good bounce-back start from him. He ends up going 6, allowing 1 hit, which was a solo shot, and obviously 1 earned there, 9 Ks. Gets pulled at 74 pitches after issuing a walk to start the 7th, and we can go back and forth on this decision. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Obviously, the break coming up, the bullpen has looked so good, and it was just about executing. Can't really be too mad about it, in my opinion. Made a lot of sense, obviously, looking back and definitely in the moment. But the bullpen sort of blundered here in this game, allowed the Cubs to come back in when we had a 4-1 lead. And, you know, they're just able to take the rubber match. I really wanted this one for momentum for the team, but again, we'll discuss that a little bit further here throughout the episode. Moving on to some of the key takeaways that I saw from this past series. The first thing I want to talk about is that there's a lot to build on here with Carlos Rodon. Obviously, seeing his first start, definitely kept an eye closely on his past rehab starts, but again, just to highlight his stats, 5 1/3, 4 hits, 2 runs, 2 Ks, 2 walks. A lot of 2s in there, but felt that his stuff was pretty good. His velocity was there. He's traditionally been very much a fastball slider pitcher, so would love to see him continue to incorporate more pitches into his mix. I know he has a changeup, but Interesting to see. Maybe he'll add a cutter. Obviously, the Yankees staff loves cutters, but he looked pretty good. He loves throwing that high fastball. His stuff looked pretty good. Just need a little more refining in terms of location. His secondary stuff, definitely not as good as I think he would have liked, and he talked about that in the post-game presser, but certainly having the opportunity to go 5 1/3 here in this game is big, and not sure if he's going to get a session during the All-Star break, maybe to try and get his pitch count up again, but overall looked pretty good, and I'm honestly really happy with that start, although we weren't able to get the dub in this one. The next key takeaway I want to talk about is Gleyber Torres, and his defense needs to improve. It was really critical for us in this game. After he took out Herman, really critical error by Gleyber Torres on a very routine ground ball, ends up booting it, double play ball, and sort of just opens up the game. Obviously, even getting one out there is something that would have been massive, but at the end of the day, Aaron Boone talks about him not making too many errors he felt at second base, but that is just factually wrong. He's leading second baseman in errors. He has 9 here in the first half, and this is nothing new. To a lot of Yankees fans, it's that scenario where he makes some of those fantastic plays, moving to his right, throwing across his body, things that he makes look routine that are honestly really hard throws. He kind of reminds me a little bit when he's making those plays of Robbie Cano, just how smooth he can look sometimes making those plays, moving up the middle, but at the end of the day, he's got to make those routine plays. It was really difficult to see that happen. I actually was home to watch this game. I haven't been able to watch a ton over the past few weeks. Super busy with baseball and coaching baseball and some other things going on for me here, but he really has to start making those plays, and if he's able to even get one out there, the whole game could have gone differently. It really would have been a big series for us to have, but it's really just got to be better. 9 errors is brutal, and a lot of them on routines, so we'll have to look to see him try and improve that sort of talking point over the second half. The next key takeaway we'll talk about is the Yankees end up firing hitting coach Dillon Lawson, and a pretty interesting storyline here because Brian Cashman notably does not fire people in season. He's a strong believer that a full body of work throughout the season is needed to really evaluate and understand what's going on, but he has a lot of pressure on him right now. It's whatever's happening is not working right now. The Yankees, the entire season outside of Aaron Judge, have really continued to struggle, and that's the group at large. I know Anthony Volpe is sort of on right now. Left him out of the key takeaways because we talked about him last week. He continues to do his thing. Ends up going deep today. Continues to hit, and would love to see him continue to get opportunities at the top of the lineup, both with his speed and his ability to get on base throughout the past month or so, but some change is needed to happen, and I tip the cap in terms of having the guts to really pull that move. Talking a little bit about the new hire, the Yankees are looking to bring somebody in from the outside, not promote within the organization. Sort of a timetable to expect there. The Yankees, obviously quick turnaround, they're looking to bring somebody in as soon as possible. They're looking to have somebody with them in Colorado to move forward throughout the second half of the season. So in terms of leads, I'm not sure exactly where that may be. In terms of if that's a former player, traditionally they've taken that route with a guy like Marcus Thames or who have you. So we'll have to see on news on that. But quick turnaround there, and hopefully they're able to provide a spark because clearly he was not able to do as much as a chicken parm. So unfortunate to see. Obviously, you don't want people to get fired, but job wasn't getting done. Plain and simple. And the last key takeaway, we talked about it before, the Yankees really need this break. They're really having a difficult time right now. We can't be dropping series to the Cubs, and, maybe it's just a mental reset is needed. Obviously, we have guys coming back like Rodon, I think will be a massive piece for us. Aaron Judge, hopefully, before the end of the season. We'll talk a little bit about that again, as well as Nestor, but this team needs help. We need to figure out what's going on with the rotation. The bullpen needs some rest. It's pretty evident that they've been overworked to this point, and that's continuing the point of why we're falling off a little bit, I think, in terms of the bullpen. It's unrealistic to think that they can save the day every time, so we'll have to see some rest for them and just mentally reset and approach it hitting, maybe a new hitting coach, and we sort of make this charge. As I think we're 8 games back now. Everybody won in the division today besides us. The Rays have lost 7 of their last 8. Weren't able to make up any ground. The Orioles have been playing well, and we're now in 4th place behind the Blue Jays. So, pretty brutal, but let me know what you guys think of my takeaways and what you took away from this series overall. Moving on to What's Up, Doc. We'll talk about 3 guys here. Aaron Judge, obviously being the first, the captain. He announced today that he will not be traveling to Seattle, which makes a ton of sense. Obviously, he will not be playing in the game. He will continue to remain in New York and continue his rehab there. Definitely the smart move, and just not really a point of making that trip. I understand it's an experience and being a part of that, but I think obviously it's much more important for him to be getting healthy, focusing on his recovery, and getting back as quick as he can, and just him to sort of understand the importance of himself in this lineup and on this team. So definitely was sort of glad to see that, because it was unsure what his route would be for the All-Star break, which will be in Seattle. Obviously it will be in Colorado, but the best care is always at home. So we'll move on now. We'll talk about Nestor Cortez. He ended up throwing a 20-pitch live session today, and he ended up throwing to Greg Allen. I'm not sure if I ended up seeing any information about him throwing to anybody else, but according to reports, he looked pretty good. No pain at all from him, so moving forward a schedule for him in terms of his rehab process. He is reported to have a bullpen on this upcoming Thursday, assuming that'll be in New York, as well as Monday. Again, most likely going to be in New York. And he's on the road. He was moved to the 60-day IL in a move to bring back Carlos Rodon, and just sort of a feel of where he is in terms of his recovery and when he can rejoin the team. It's looking like, seeing reports of first week of August, I'm pretty optimistic about mid-August, and he'll be good boost for this lineup, and hopefully come back healthy, have his good stuff, and be prepared to give us a run, because this team's going to have to make one. And finally, the last guy we'll talk about is Jake Bauers. We'll talk about him quickly. He goes on the 10-day with a rotator cuff contusion. This happened on a play in the Orioles series where he was sort of sliding for a ball out in the outfield. This is retro to 7-6, so he'll be back around the 17th, and hopefully can make an impact. He's been relatively more quiet as of recent. Billy McKinney in the outfield sort of taken over more of that sort of flash that we saw from Bauers at the beginning of the year, but I think it's important that we continue to have the outfield depth, because without Judge, I think it's important to continue to platoon. We'll need IKF to sort of fill in as we need. Yes, he's been good, but at the same time, always love a lefty bat, and we'll love to get him back, hopefully in the near future. Willie Calhoun as well. We'll have to see what's going on with him. And finally, we'll talk about who's on deck, what is coming down the pipeline for the New York Yankees over the next 2 weeks or so. First thing will be the All-Star break. We have played our last game in quote-unquote the first half of the season. Now, basically just Garrett Cole, but everybody else who's All-Stars are heading out to Seattle. Tomorrow will be the Home Run Derby, a bunch of festivities like that. And Tuesday will be the game. So, I'm not sure if Garrett Cole is going to start. I think that he's honestly pretty deserving of it. But I believe that, he threw on Saturday, so maybe he'll be able to throw an inning and he'll use that as his bullpen work. That obviously makes a lot of sense. He's been pretty dominant this year, but that sort of break that we're talking about will be starting tomorrow on Monday the 10th and run through Thursday the 13th. And after that, we, like I mentioned, will travel to Colorado for 3 games there, as well as traveling even further out west to LA, taking on the Angels for 3. May even see Shohei Ohtani on the mound, as we didn't see him last time in the Bronx. So that's going to do it for this video, guys. Again, let me know what your guys' takeaways were from this past series. You guys can let me know overall how you felt about the first half. Obviously, I'm pretty negative on the first half in terms of what we were able to accomplish, where we stand here in the American League East. We now are out of a wild card spot, and honestly, it's a tough pill to swallow based on the roster that we have and how things have played out to this point. But again, let me know down in the comment section below. But make sure to like if you guys enjoyed this video. Subscribe again if you guys are new to not miss Yankees content in the future. But for now, that's going to do it. This has been your boy Frankie Bones, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Peace out.